The Clemson Tigers danced their way to another victory on Saturday night. This time it was the Tallahassee two-step. The Tigers went down to the Florida Panhandle and took down the Seminoles of Florida State 29-13. Wasn't always a pretty game. There were times that were a bit frustrating, but at the end of the day, Clemson did what they had to do, and Dabo Swinney is now the ACC's winningest coach. We're going to talk about last night's game, break it all down, and where do the Tigers go from here, all on this episode of Around the Paw. All right, welcome in, everybody. This is Garrett Mitchell, as always, joined by Griffin Barfield and Clifton Kennedy. And guys, another week, another Clemson Tiger win. This one wasn't always pretty. The style points were lacking at times. But Griffin, you were there. You were in Tallahassee for this game. So, lead us off here. What were your takeaways from this game? And, what did you see with your eye being there in person?
Yeah, first and foremost, big win from Clemson. I was very, very impressed, especially in the first half, where they were able to find success offensively. I know that a big takeaway from this game is going to be the amount of times Clemson had to use the field goal unit. They used it a program record 7 times, and they only hit 5 field goals. 2 of those field goals were blocked, and it's also very funny that most of those field goals were inside of 40 yards. So that is one of the kind of takeaways in a negative way you have to take away from that. Offensively, looks great. Going up to the red zone, though, there was no red zone touchdown, which I thought was very, very interesting based off how the last 3 weeks have been. But for me, I really liked how we were defensively. I'm not going to discredit Florida State at all. I think that their defense is incredible. I think their offense is very, very good, especially with a redshirt freshman like Brock Glenn. He was able to extend a lot of plays. And that's where I thought Clemson, especially defensively, and the 2 touchdown drives for Florida State, that's where they kind of struggled, were the ability for Florida State to extend those plays. Because I talked about this with a few people before. You give a quarterback, 5, 6, 7 extra seconds in the pocket, they're going to make great plays out of it. I'm gonna calculate the first drive. I forget if it was the second or third down, but Glenn had 5, 6 seconds and was able to find a wide open receiver for a 35-yard pass. It would set up a touchdown, a few plays later. And then the other one was that 4th and 9, where Glenn was able to outrun Peter Woods. He out-deked Avion Terrell and kind of reached out and picked up a 4th down on 4th and 9, where Florida State were kind of down in the water. So for me, I really thought that as long as you are able to get those finishing touches on those drives, Florida State could have put up a goose egg today, or not today, yesterday. So for me, I thought that it was a good performance. Obviously, there's stuff to fix, but this is, besides Georgia, in my opinion, the best team that Clemson has played. It's the first true away game. There's obviously going to be a lot to take away from it, but I thought that it was a great win and a great way to move forward this season, especially with all the upsets that were happening yesterday.
Yeah, and Cliff, I was texting you last night, and I was frustrated, to say the least. I won't repeat some of what I said on the show, but what did you make of Clemson's failure to score touchdowns in the red zone? Because that's not what we've seen from this team. You take away the Georgia game, as Griffin said, this has been a team that when they got inside the 25, they scored touchdowns. And last night, It seemed like they got in the red zone almost every time they had the ball, but they just weren't scoring touchdowns. I know we say give the ball to Phil Maffa, but Florida State's defensive line, aside from Maffa's 159-yard run, did a really good job of capitalizing or shutting down the Clemson run game, is the better way to say it. I think Clemson last night maybe fell too in love with the run, as odd as that may be to say, and almost really abandoned throwing the ball in the red zone.
Well, that was the one thing that was a sore eye for me, I guess, was the failure to score in the end zone or in the red zone. I am glad that they stuck with a run, though, and got him the ball over 20 times. I was pleased with that. Yeah, 25. I think that's the number of touches that I've asked for the past number of weeks, is at least get him 25 touches. And this is my take on it. I heard another YouTuber say this, and that as if you keep giving the ball to Phil Maffa, he's gonna break that long run. And I think somehow, some way, he should have got in the end zone on that run, like some way, somehow. But I mean, that was the one thing that I was not happy with last night, was that when we got in the red zone, we didn't score. And in that one time when we were in the red zone, I think it was on Phil Maffa's run, where Cade Klubnik kind of ran over to the side and then just went down.
That was a like, designed play, and that was probably the maddest I was in the entire ball game.
Exactly.
What in the hell kind of play call is that? I'm sorry. That is never going to work. A design run with your quarterback to the short side of the field and you need 4 yards? Come on, get out of here with that.
Well, I didn't like it, but after I thought, like, I was thinking about it today, I was like, they were setting up a field goal. That's exactly what they were doing.
After you had two blocks, so in what universe was that a smart move?
Well, I know, but at that point, the game was out of reach. Like, even if we missed that field goal, I think the game's out of reach. I just think Florida State's offense couldn't move the ball. They were dropping. I mean, okay, that's kind of a catch-22 because they did move the ball, but at that point in the game, they were dropping passes, and there was a couple of fourth down, or there was a couple of plays where you catch the ball, it's a first down. That long pass to, I don't remember the receiver's name, where he's falling back and it hits him in the hands and he drops it. Like, if Florida State makes those plays, this ball game's interesting. But they just didn't make those plays, and I don't think they've made those plays all year. And so, I never thought this game was in doubt. I'll say that. I never, even though we struggled on the offensive line a little bit and in the kicking game, I never thought this was out. And Griffin, what was the feel for you being down there, like when it was at 10 points? Did you ever feel like it was out of reach, or did you feel like Florida State had a chance?
I don't think Florida State really had that chance, especially with a 17-point first quarter. I think that's kind of the biggest thing to take away from this, is that Clemson have really started games early and they've kept their opponent out, and they've really just used their command on offense. And that's kind of where Phil Maffa really came in. And I think Clemson were just, especially in that second half, just trying to run out the clock. And I really like that balanced attack. They had 500 total yards, 500 no cash, no change, which I really, really liked. I liked that balanced attack. I liked Phil Maffa's usage. Like you said, I was waiting for him to have that big run, and he did. But I think Sweeney just really trusted his defense, right? This is Brock Glenn's making his first start yesterday of the season. I know that he had a little bit of experience, playing against Georgia in the Orange Bowl, and then playing against Louisville in the ACC championship game. But this was the first game where he kind of really showed that command. And I thought that he showed that very, very well, but I don't think that he was able to execute to the manners that he wanted to against a defense like Clemson. I think Florida State are going to have a better end to the season, like compared to they did to the beginning of the season. But I really think that Sweeney just really trusted his guys. He trusted the run game, that they were pretty stifling up front. They were able to get to Glenn early, make him throw sometimes, had to make Glenn use his legs sometimes. I think it's just all in how confident Sweeney is with his team, especially defensively. You've seen this before. You saw this last year too. And I think that was just another instance of that. And there's obviously stuff to fix. And again, with it being their first away game, I think that there is going to be room for improvement. And you'll see it next week against Wake Forest. You'll see it in games like Pittsburgh. You'll see it in games like Virginia Tech, because environment's only going to get more hostile. So that's kind of what I took away from that. I think it was just to control the game. And I don't think Florida State were really ever in this game. I was never really worried about that.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we saw last night, and, I'm going to talk about some of the positives here in a minute, but I was disappointed in the blocking and the offensive line, because we have seen this offensive line play so much better this year. And there were times, at least in my eye, they were getting pushed around last night. They got Cade on the run several times, sacked him a couple of times, and then the 2 blocked field goals. And I believe Dabo Swinney said after the game, memory serves, the word he used was awful. That's just awful. I mean, you got things like that can't happen. Look, Nolan Hoosier is an unbelievable kicker. This guy is, BT Potter set records at Clemson. Nolan Hoosier is a guy that could come right behind BT and break all those records. This kid's clutch. Those 2 missed field goals are not on him. They were just flat out blocked because the blocks were whiffed. This is stuff that can't happen. I mean, you go deeper in the season, play at Miami, get in the playoffs, rematch with Georgia, whoever you're playing. You have breakdowns up front like that, then you're not going to win.
Oh, no, and that will be fixed too, because it was the same instance. The block kick was at the same part of the line. It was the left side of the line. Yep. And it was Dietrich Pennington, who was out for the rest of the season. He used to play on that left side. And TJ Parker missed that first block, and then Kate Dedoff missed the next block. They were switching him in and out. So I think it's just only a matter of who is going to fill that slot. And I think that they'll figure that out in moments. And especially with it being an away game too. I just keep saying that because I know Florida State's one of the tougher places to play, despite, the renovations and all that. I wouldn't stress about that. That's probably something that Sweeney's going to drill into this week and going into next week and kind of just prepare for that next big game, which should be Louisville, in my opinion, or Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I think it's good that it happened early. Is what I was trying to say, and so that we were having these issues early because it gives us a chance for, like you said, for Sweeney to drill it down. Like, hey, we got to fix this. So it'll get fixed. And Garrett, that's why I wasn't worried. Like, because I know it's early, and I know we'll have time to fix that. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it's frustrating in the moment. I think when you go back and look at the numbers, I would have liked to have seen a wider margin of victory, but the fact of the matter is Clemson did dominate that game. Florida State had 250 yards of total offense. Clemson literally doubled them up, 500 to 250. Florida State only had 22 rushing yards. There was a time late in the third quarter, and they talked about the ESPN commentators actually were talking about it, and they showed the graphic on the screen. I think with about a minute or two to play in the third quarter, Florida State had -1 yards rushing. And, Brock Glenn, he made some plays through the air. His receivers dropped some passes. But that defense against the run, it truly made Florida State one-dimensional because they could not run the ball at all.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give credit to the linebackers, Wade Woodaz and Barrett Carter. They were the 2 that led the team in tackles last night. Both of them had a tackle for a loss. I think Carter also had a sack. TJ Parker had a sack. I'm really going to credit one guy on the defensive line who's had a lot of opportunities because of that Peter Woods injury. I know that Woods was back yesterday, but Sweeney said that he was still a little bit kind of on the come up, if you get what I mean. And that guy's redshirt sophomore, Jaheim Lawson. I thought that he was an incredible disruptor around the line, especially, around the edge. He had a tackle for a loss. I know 2 total tackles is not, eye-popping, but, if you're looking at just watching the film and seeing who is kind of just making those influences that are kind of helping everybody else in a complementary way, it was Jaheim Lawson, and I'm really excited to see how he kind of changes going over the course of the season, because I know Woods is going to be back and he's going to take that other edge spot. But it really helps, that second team, those reinforcements on, those second and third downs of those long drives. This guy could be a disruptor, and he really showed that at one of the bigger games this season for Clemson in an away environment. Kind of looking for that identity on that defensive line. Is it going to be Peter Woods? I know that he was a little bit banged up. TJ Parker, Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, and he was kind of playing that role, which I was really excited to see.
Yeah, Cliff, I tell you what, probably one of the times that I absolutely cussed at my TV last night was you talk about Jaheim Lawson. He blew a play up. I mean, he just straight blew the play up, and all the Florida State guy could do was just grab him. That dude held Jaheim Lawson all the way to freaking Pensacola, and they didn't throw a flag. It was blatant. The official standing right there. Get the damn flag out of your pocket. That's one you cannot miss.
Yeah, I saw that, and I yelled. I was the same way. I was yelling at the TV, and my stepdad was sitting right beside me, and he was the same way. He was like, "Why wasn't that called?" And I was like, "I have no clue, because that was definitely a holding." He grabbed him by his neck. If I'm thinking about the same one that you're thinking about, but
I think he grabbed him up here and literally just drug him 10 yards backwards and just drug him out of bounds. I mean, like I said, he held him from Tallahassee to Pensacola. Come on.
And if he wouldn't have held him, I think he might have gotten a sack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he absolutely was. So, but look, who knows what you're going to get with ACC officials. Fact of the matter is, and I'll say it publicly, ACC officials are garbage. They're trash. They're garbage. Look, you missed the holding. Jaheim Lawson got held. I want to know why it wasn't targeting last night against Miami that would have let Cal run out the clock. That play is exactly why you have the rule in. Basant for Miami lowers his shoulders, lowers his head, physically launches himself off the ground, and makes contact just below the ear hole with his helmet.
Oh, trust me.
Don't tell me
in
for 1
Tallahassee.
minute that wasn't reviewed and not called just so that was not called so Miami could win that ball game. It was 100% done on purpose. Had a Clemson player done it, they would have been thrown out of the ball game, and they would have been thrown into the pits of fiery hell for it.
You thought Clemson was backfiring and going crazy over that. How about Tallahassee? I talked to a little bit of the fans after the game, and great fan base. I will say that from the people that I talked to, over the game, Florida State fans, great people. And I really enjoyed that time with them. They were pissed. They were so upset. And I'm going to keep creating the same points with ACC refs, so I'm going to stop talking here.
Are you struggling to get insurance coverage for your roof? Don't let multiple claim denials keep you from protecting your home. Sovereign Roofing has a team of experts who know the ins and outs of the system, allowing us to be your professional guide. With up to 2 inspections included with a denied claim, we make sure your roof is properly evaluated and your insurance company can't deny it twice. From new roofs to repairs and insurance claims, our staff provides exceptional service and ensures you get the best results. Trust Sovereign Roofing for all of your roofing needs in South Carolina. Click here to learn more. Yeah, what do you think? Did you see that play last night? I'm risking getting off on a tangent here, but my God.
I did not. I don't think I saw it if it was toward the end of the game, because I stopped watching it at halftime.
Oh, no, it was with about a minute 20 to go in the ball game. It was on it was on 3rd and long or whatever, and the Cal quarterback just takes off and just got obliterated by the Miami linebacker.
Oh, hold up. It was brutal. Yeah, I did. I saw.
I mean, it was the linebacker from Miami, Basant, launched himself in the air and hit him helmet to helmet. I mean, I don't know how it can be any more textbook than that.
Yeah, I did see it. Yeah.
Look, I'm going to raise my hand. I was pulling for Cal. I think Cal's the better team. I thought Cal was the more talented team. Sorry, I don't think Miami's very good. I'll say it.
Not Miami. Cal were the more put together team. Sorry, I interrupted you. Cal was the more they were more of the team. Miami were the more of the players. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I think Miami's gotten lucky the past 2 games, to be perfectly honest with you. I think they got really lucky.
If they went out and we went out, so be it. We'll play them in Charlotte. And you know what they say, you want somebody beaten, do it yourself. So I'll be looking forward to humbling them a little bit, because I'm not sold on Miami. I don't think they're very good, but I digress. Anyway, back to Clemson as we put a wrap on the recap. You look at it, and it was some things you need to work on, some things you did really well, but all in all, Griffin, I think you hit the nail on the head. First true road game, you head down to Florida in front of a hostile crowd, and I was actually, like you said, credit to Florida State's fans for a 1-4 team coming in. It was packed, and those fans were into it. Either way you look at it, Doak Campbell's a tough place to play. You went in there, you stood on your business, and you came out with a win. At the end of the day, that's all you can ask for.
A win's a win. And, you're going to look back at it too for 2-3 years from now. I mean, how many games do we talk about in depth, a day after kind of looking back at it in a year? All you're going to see years from now is you're going to say, hey, this team won its first true road game. They won by a lot. I know there was a whole controversy about the spread, whether it was covered or not, because I know it went from 15, 16, 17, 14.
I think they officially covered.
Yeah, it really depends on when you place the bet, but it was a good win. If you're winning by 2 scores against a team that, regardless of what their record looks like, is a gritty team, well coached. I think Norvell's a great coach. I think it's a win in your book. I think it's a successful business trip.
I was going to say, and I think if they play Brock Glenn, I think they'll win one or two more games, depending on who they play. I mean, I think he's a pretty decent quarterback. He's a lot more mobile than DJ, and I think he can do some things that DJ can't.
They could win 3 or 4 more.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons they did some things well. Yeah, I think that's one of the things. I think that's one of the reasons they did some things well is because we really truly weren't preparing for Brock Glenn. If you think about it, because I think they announced that halfway through the week. But
you didn't have a lot of film on him.
They'll
they
never
really
say
have a way to prepare for him.
Yeah,
but I'll end with this. Look, at least we didn't fall prey to the upset virus yesterday. And look, could be worse. Could be Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. There's a new song that's taking Nashville by storm right now. It's called Dixieland Dejected.
I'll give you that one. That was good. Good.
See, I wish I had a crystal ball. I wish I'd put $20-$30 on Vanderbilt just to take that game head up. I would be buying us all steak dinner right now, but I'm not that clairvoyant. So
I'm just going to say this, man. Vandy is not going to be an easy game for anybody this year. I don't think. And I don't
look. I had a friend of mine yesterday. I had somebody tell me last night that Clemson would lose to Vanderbilt by 2 scores. I encouraged him to either seek professional mental health therapy or to check himself into rehab because he was either crazy or high. No.
Yeah. No.
They could play – Vanderbilt and Alabama could play 100 times, and that is Vanderbilt's one win. As amazing as it was.
A little bit of a hangover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Either way, they can hold on to that one forever. That's not one anybody can ever take away from them. So.
Oh, no.
I'll say this.
That was so cool. I loved it. I loved it all.
Yeah, I'll say this, and everybody's saying this, so it's nothing new. If that's a Nick Saban team, that doesn't happen.
Nah, it don't.
That doesn't happen, man. That don't happen. I'm sorry,
but either way, it was cool to watch. So way to go, Commodores, go Vandy,
yeah,
and go Clemson Tigers. So great win down in Tallahassee. We're gonna wrap it up for this recap. On the next episode of Around the Paw, we're going to be talking about this coming week's matchup against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, second consecutive road game for the Clemson Tigers. So everybody stay tuned to that one. So that's going to wrap it up on this episode of Around the Paw. We appreciate everybody watching. I'm Garrett Mitchell, along with Griffin Barfield and Clifton Kennedy. And as always, we say, God bless, Godspeed, and go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.